Modern cities are a testament to the technological advances that have defined human evolution over the past decades. Across the globe, cities that never sleep are engulfed by the sights and sounds of rush hour traffic. High-rise buildings dazzle like stars, illuminating the sky in spectrums of color and light. In all this evolution and chaos, we have forgotten to look up and appreciate the beauty of the night sky. Far away from these cities, tucked amidst the breathtaking beauty of the Himalayas, Hanle, a scenic village in the Changthang region of Ladakh, is all set to change the way we look at the universe. The land of high passes, Ladakh is a traveler's dream and a bucket list favorite for thousands across the globe. This high-altitude cold desert boasts an abundance of stunning landscapes and geological features analogous to those of faraway planets, making it an ideal destination for tourists from around the world who come seeking a cultural awakening and the thrill of adventure. Headquartered in Bangalore, the Indian Institute of Astrophysics maintains its administrative setup and transit facility of the Indian Astronomical Observatory here in Leh. Doje Anchuk, the engineer in charge of the Indian Astronomical Observatory, has been spearheading the implementation of the Hanle Dark Sky Reserve project. His unbridled passion for promoting astronomy in the Ladakh region through the medium of astrophotography has earned him an honorary membership of the International Astronomical Union, making him the only Indian to join a distinguished list of international experts. He has scheduled his monthly site visit to the Indian Astronomical Observatory at Hanle.
Hanle offers one of the best skies in the world. This is mainly due to being placed at a very high altitude and the number of clear skies that we get there, and also the dry condition, which makes it one of the ideal location for an observatory to be placed there. Due to the remoteness of the place, so we are very much far away from all the light pollution. Basically, the light pollution robs us from seeing the stars, and hence at Hanle we are very much well placed because there is no city or no glare from the lights nearby.
Leh has grown rapidly in the last couple of years and is on its way to becoming one of the biggest cities in the Himalayan region. Rapid urbanization brings with it its own set of challenges, with one of the greatest concerns being an increase in urban electrification. If left unchecked, will lead to not only wastage of energy but also rampant light pollution. Located at the far end of the town is iconic monument of Shanti Stupa. Built as a part of the Peace Pagoda mission, The site boasts spectacular views of Leh town. Having frequented this place since his childhood, Doje has witnessed firsthand the changes years have brought.
I've been coming here at the Shanti Stupa since I was a kid, and this place gives a very good panoramic view of the whole city. And through the ages, I've seen that the city has grown, and along with the city, as you can see, the amount of light pollution has also increased a lot.
Light pollution is a serious global issue. According to a study, 80% of the world lives under light-polluted skies, which adversely affect not only humans but also our flora and fauna. Historically, our cities have never been as bright as they are today. Not only did our ancestors enjoy the night sky without interruption, but they also associated stellar positions and planetary movements with their day-to-day activities. Lunar cycles provided dates for historical, cultural, traditional and political events, as well as a way of determining the passage of time.
We have grown up observing the communities consult astrology or astronomy to begin any auspicious event, to decide the important activities such as agricultural activities in the summer season, and birth, death, whatever events takes place in the community, in the family. Astronomy plays a very important role in our lives, or astrology, yeah. And there's a whole complete comprehensive science on astrology which is practiced in Ladakhi culture. But there are lots of hearsay, the stories that I've heard from other people, older people, who say that they used to watch stars very carefully to see whether the crop yield is going to be good or bad in the coming season, whether the milk production would be good or bad in the coming season. There are certain constellations that they observe, and there's a way to observe those constellations, like for example through their fingers, through the palm, and how those constellations placed, and there's a whole system of watching it. And not just that constellation, but there are other constellations, other stars that the people in the village, those days. Nowadays, these practices are dwindling, declining, or disappearing, because of modernity, because of changes that we're seeing around here.
The locals here also celebrate several festivals based on the phases of the moon. Matho Nagaran, an annual festival held at the Matho Monastery, is one such festival that takes place every year on the 14th and 15th day of the first month of the Tibetan lunar calendar. During this 2-day festival, a sacred dance known as Cham is performed by monks at the monastery, wearing colorful silk brocade robes and vibrant masks. Located around 250 kilometers southeast of Leh in the Changthang region of Ladakh, Hanle is one of the world's most enchanting, serene and breathtaking locations. The 16th century Hanle Monastery offers a spectacular aerial view of the picturesque stretches of the flowing Hanle River and sprawling open meadows, which were once the main trade route between Ladakh and Tibet. At the heart of the reserve is the Indian Astronomical Observatory. At an altitude of 15,000 feet above mean sea level, the observatory is amongst one of the highest altitude observatories in the world.
So the Institute's aims, one of the aims and objectives is to set up observing facilities and making it as a national facility, and people can observe and collect data and do science with it. So with this aim in mind, it has been operating the Kodaikanal Observatory for more than 100 years. And in 1960s, it set up the Kavalur Venubapu Observatory. And we initially had a 1-meter telescope there, and then due to Bapu's vision, there was an indigenously made telescope was established in 1986. It was inaugurated, and everything was made in the country. So this was the first Atmanirbhar Bharat ka step. But we lost Professor Bapu down the line, and that vision was not carried forward. But his vision was to set up an observatory up in the north as well. Now, why do you want this? Because southern peninsula gets affected by monsoon clouds. And because of that, our observatory has to be stopped and shut down for at least 3 to 4 months, June to September. We cannot observe and we cannot get any data during that time. So in which part of the country can you have an observatory where we shall not be affected by monsoon clouds? It is indeed the Himalayan region, where because the lower Himalayan ranges stops the clouds, so upper Himalayan ranges you can always have clear skies. And so in order to identify a region where one can set up the telescope, there were several attempts done from 80s onwards. And in early 90s, there was a consolidated attempt where multiple teams were sent to various locations and to characterize them. I mean, various prioritize based on a few. I mean, parameters, approachability, what things can be done, where it's sustainable, etc. And a couple of sites were identified towards middle of 90s, and Hanle was one of the region as the topmost priority level. And we procured a 2-meter telescope and set it up by late 90s, and it was operational from 2000 onwards.
Located at a driving distance of 15 minutes from the guest house, over a meandering road that offers a scenic view of the entire village, lies the Indian Astronomical Observatory aboard the Mount Saraswati. The impressive observatory dome houses the 2-meter Himalayan Chandra telescope, named after the Indian astrophysicist and Nobel laureate Dr. Subramaniam Chandrasekhar. It is Dorje and his team of engineers who are responsible for maintaining and monitoring the telescope to make sure it functions properly, even during some of the most extreme winter conditions at Hanle.
This is the Himalayan Chandra telescope. It's a 2-meter class telescope, and the mount on which it is in the alt-azimuth mount, so it can move. And basically the classification is because the diameter of the primary mirror is 2 meter, and we have some instrument this is the faint object spectrograph camera, and this is the Shack-Harman camera. Actually, it's used to fine-tune the primary mirror. On this side, we have the Cassegrain unit of the high resolution Eshel spectrograph camera, and on the other side we have the TRISPEC, which is the infrared spectrograph and imaging camera in the infrared region. So basically this white is the main telescope, and then this rotated alt and azimuth movement, whereas where we are standing, this is stationary, and the dome moves 360 degree on its own, and the window during the night it gets open, and then it follows the telescope, the window, wherever the telescope goes.
The remoteness of the telescope and the health hazards associated with the high altitude make it a difficult location for astronomers to visit. Using a dedicated satellite link, the telescope can be operated remotely from the campus of the Center of Research and Education in Science and Technology at Hosakote, Bangalore on a real-time basis. With the sun now below the horizon, the observatory dome shutter opens to the night sky for a long night of observation. As the night sets in, the observations are in full effect. Astronomers use the telescope to gain insights into some of the most enigmatic objects in the night sky, with an unprecedented view of the universe. One major issue currently faced by astronomers is the significant increase in artificial lightning emanating from the surrounding villages and vehicles entering the area at night with high beam. This affects not only data collection at the observatory but also the ultra-sensitive detectors of the MACE telescope that is recently commissioned at the foothills for research in high-energy astronomy. MACE, or the Major Atmospheric Cherenkov Experiment. The telescope is among the largest state-of-the-art ground-based gamma-ray telescopes worldwide, consisting of a large 21-meter diameter telescope with 1564 segmented mirrors forming a parabolic shape and 1088 photomultiplier tubes.
Major purpose of this telescope when it was installed at Hanle, it was basically due to the environment around here, the pristine environment and the number of dark nights we normally have here. Now what we the light pollution normally affects our performance of the telescope in a way. You can say whenever we have a large light collection area, which normally even if you see a little bit of vehicular movement, it gets concentrated on the detector, which causes the detector to destabilize, and for that short period of time we have to discard those data, so it becomes a cumbersome process to take out those data from a huge lot of data.
Since the preservation and conservation of the night sky is of paramount importance, the Ladakh UT administration, along with the Ladakh Hill Development Council and the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, have now declared Hanle as India's first Dark Sky Reserve.
We would be jointly executing this with the UT Ladakh administration as well as the Hill Development Council, and all the stakeholders have to be on board. So I think we have done multiple meetings with the stakeholders and trying to get their feedback on how it's to be done. So what we need to do is that to preserve the night sky, we need to reduce the light pollution, and also we need to make sure that the vehicles which pass by do not send a large beam which actually scatters and produces a lot of light pollution, and also large floodlights which are set up for multiple purposes should also be avoided.
The reserve will include an area covering over 1,000 square kilometers centered at the Indian Astronomical Observatory. The reserve will now have strict guidelines for vehicular movement at night and proper outdoor light management, which will further lead to a reduction in artificial light illumination and sky glow. With a population of just over 1,000 people, the locals of these high-altitude villages within the reserve have welcomed the move, as it will provide new livelihood opportunities serving as an alternative source of income for the community.
हमारा हनले में जो है डार्क स्काई के लिए पहले बार भी हम दुर्ग साहब का साथ हम लोग का मतलब मीटिंग हुआ था। तो अभी जो है कुछ दिन पहले यहाँ के लिए डार्क स्काई के लिए काफ़ी मतलब सभी अफसरों का साथ हुआ। तो यहाँ पर डार्क स्काई होगा बोल के हमें मतलब पूरा हमें उम्मीद दे रहा था। कहते हम ये सोच रखे थे कि हमारा तो बहुत खुशी की बात है, क्योंकि जो है हमारा यहाँ इस इलाका का आदमी को हमारा क्योंकि जो ना अपना गुजारा के लिए कुछ होता नहीं है। तो होम स्टेस हो गया तो अपना किसी भी हम लोगों को अपना गुजारा चलाने के लिए बहुत इसमें फ़ायदा होगा। तो हम इसलिए सोचते हैं कि हम तो मैं अपना तरफ से मैं बहुत खुशी हूँ, और मैं जो इस यहाँ पर डार्क स्काइज के लिए प्लान करने के लिए हम बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कहना चाहता हूँ।
To create awareness about the importance of the Dark Sky Reserve, the Ladakh UT administration plans to promote astro-tourism by incorporating several homestays and installing telescopes in the villages across the reserve.
अभी एक पार्ट पे में उसको शेडो होगा, वहाँ पे हमारा सनलाइट नहीं लग रहा है, इसलिए आपको वो पार्ट नहीं दिखेगा। लेकिन बाकी जो क्रेटर्स जहाँ पे अभी आपको बहुत साफ साफ दिख रहा है, वहाँ पे हमारा सनलाइट की वजह से हमें वो सब नज़ारा दिख पा रहा है। During the many outreach program we have, so whenever we show the general public the moon for the first time, they get very much connected to it, and as a part of the Hanle Dark Sky Reserve, we intend to empower the villagers with telescopes so that they can show it to all to themselves, their children, their families, and all the visitors that will be those will be coming to Hanle.
The UT administration, along with the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, also plans to train the community in astronomy and telescope operation to work as astro guides, assisting tourists and educating them about the wonders of the night sky.
अच्छा इन दक्सा टेलीस्कोप इन लाइन में था
या बस
डेमो थुंदा
क्या चीज
देनी तेगा ची लोग सिकान लाइन में तास्ते
जब इन था लाइन
ओले दो मा फुक तना अच्छा ता इकने मता दा टेलीस्कोप ने तना yang jitong tangin ra ta che za अच्छा देनी yang आता yang टेलीस्कोप ते sang cheri kyo da देना आता stars te jitong lo tangin ra मेरा अच्छा अच्छा देना आता kyon he ठीक है ngata liha to dukan guna jizera no
अरे जब से गेल मी पूरा मंग से मारा
astrophysics है ना देने का लास्ट चोकन sama astronomer जरा ना देने छिनमो सोंते astronomer gyulginra yeah oju thank you.
The local school administration also has applauded the designation of Hanle as a dark sky reserve, as this would further motivate the students to pursue an alternative career in science and tourism.
Not only as a headmaster of the institution, but as a local resident of Hanle, this is a good news for all Ladakhis, and especially for the people of Hanle, for declaring Hanle as a dark sky reserve. And we are looking forward for the future of the students. This is a new scope in India, all over India, and then our students, after clearing their 10+2 and graduation, as well as some after matriculation, they could not continue their studies due to different reasons. Through Dark Sky Century, all the young generations can they earn, and they have a new scope,
Light pollution can disrupt an entire ecosystem. The establishment of the Hanle Dark Sky Reserve will not just benefit the observatory and locals, but also the elusive wildlife that calls the Changthang Wildlife Sanctuary their home.
Hanle is, as far as the wildlife is concerned, it's a very interesting and fascinating place, with a very interesting assemblage of wild animals, like the Tibetan gazelle, for example. That's the only valley in entire Ladakh where we have a small population of the Tibetan gazelle, so they would definitely would benefit from this. See, migratory birds while migrating, while navigating, they take cues from stars and celestial bodies and all. So it often confuses the artificial lighting, powerful, especially very bright lights, confuse them. They lose their migratory paths. So having a dark sky sanctuary definitely would help migratory birds also in terms of helping them in during their migration time. So yes, and Hanle is a very important site when it comes to migratory birds. Like we have a small population of the black-necked crane and birds like the bar-headed goose, which is the highest flying bird in the world. They also come there, and Brahmini ducks, and there are a lot of others very interesting species. They come to Hanle, and obviously there would be also benefited, if we have less lighting, less bright lighting.
In an ever-changing world, where the time to preserve and protect is slipping through our fingers like sand in an hourglass, the move to conserve our most abundant natural resource, the night sky, is a step in the right direction. Hanle, with its natural and cultural heritage, will be a model of conservation in the future. And now, as India's first ever Dark Sky Reserve, we are inching closer to that coveted horizon. Discover a window into another world. Come, discover yourself amongst the stars.